I'd be supportive of that to my colleague in District 11 if that's amenable.
All right, it works out that Councilmember Park is the next person on the queue.
Well, thank you, Council President, and we appreciate the accommodation of a little extra time on the public comment today. As you can imagine, this is a critically important issue for so many people. Colleagues, just a basic reminder, absolutely nothing about this rebuild is voluntary, not for anyone who lost their home or their property on January 7th. It doesn't matter whether it was a home rented or owned, or whether it was a beloved local business, or whether it was a multifamily building their grandparents bought in the 1960s. Absolutely none of it is voluntary. On January 7th, their entire community was taken from them. Their homes, their churches, their schools, their pets, their memories, their futures, all of it, taken from them in a catastrophe that was no fault of their own. These people survived terrifying evacuations and watched in horror as everything they knew and loved burned. These are not voluntary remodels. Literally no one asked for this. These aren't people trying to rebuild for profit. They are trying to rebuild their lives. Thousands of them were under and uninsured, again, through no fault of their own. Hundreds of them were dropped just weeks and days before the fire. These are people who are grappling with gut-wrenching decisions right now about what to do. These people are on the brink of calling it a total loss and walking away. Their insurance benefits are running out. Alternative living expenses are about to expire. People are carrying mortgages on properties that were pulverized 10 months ago, and now they're also paying rent. And I personally know too many of them that are holding on by a thread. These are teachers, artists, and small business owners, and nurses, and builders, and office workers, just like all the rest of us all over LA. Some of them are grandparents, some of them are brand new families just starting out. Some of them have been there for generations. These people are our friends. These are our neighbors, and they are Angelenos. We owe it to them to take care of them just because it's the right thing to do. And while I do appreciate the fiscal concerns raised by the BFI in its report, restricting the fee waiver to single-family homes and duplexes, which is clearly what the report does, just repeats the same falsehood, that somehow the Pacific Palisades is just an island of affluence. The reality is what we lost is so much more. It is rent-stabilized mobile home parks, which I have been fighting like hell to help rebuild, despite hitting one challenge after another. Dozens of them were townhomes, nearly 1,000 units of RSO housing, income restricted condos for seniors. This is affordable housing in the truest sense of the word. And for so many of them, older, modest, single-family homes, 110% just doesn't make sense. The cost of labor and materials, having to hire architects and builders, these people just lost everything. And unlike the Budget and Finance Committee report, our report from the Recovery Committee captures the breadth of the housing stock and more that was lost or damaged in the Palisades fire. We should not be picking winners and losers, telling one class of residents that we'll waive your fees if you own a single-family home. We'll waive your fees if you own a duplex, but we're going to tell other people, too bad you own a mobile home or a condo. Too bad your property was a multifamily building. Too bad you lived in the ADU in the back of the main house. Too bad you owned a building on Sunset Boulevard in the historic block. Businesses that have served generations of Angelenos. And worse, I can't find a good reason for the distinction. It's not that the fiscal impact of rebuilding on multifamily or commercial properties is any greater. According to the CAO's own report, waivers for multifamily would actually be less than single-family homes. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't feel like waiving these fees is actually going to make the difference between rebuilding and giving these folks a pathway home. But for them, who are making decisions about whether they can return or if they're just going to pack up and leave LA forever, for us to show them that we have their back, it might just be enough. Enough to convince a retiree to stay and rebuild. Maybe it'll be enough to convince an apartment owner to rebuild so that the people who were there have an opportunity to come home to. Colleagues, I think the only thing that we really can do here is to stand up for these victims who through no fault of their own have had everything stolen from them in this catastrophe. We have precedent for doing this, and my ask to you all is that we do the right thing and we adopt the ad hoc committee report. I will like to ask when we take the vote, because I don't know where the numbers are going to come, if this is going to be limited, and if the BFI report is what is going to be moved, I would ask, would you please, at least, please, consider a friendly amendment that would do the following. Include a sunset date, January 7th, 2030. 2, waive rebuilding fees for the ineligible Palisades property owners whose fees were already suspended as of the effective date of the ordinance. If those household fees have already been suspended, City of LA can't be a collection agency. Commitments were made to all of these people in the mayor's executive order. 3, I think it is absolutely essential that the waiver to like-for-like rebuilds be expanded to include condos, townhomes, apartments, and our mobile home parks. 4th, we have to remove the 110% rebuild restriction for single-family homes and duplexes for the economic factors that I've just described. And finally, for all properties up to 110% should be waived before any fees are charged beyond the 110%. Thank you, colleagues.
Is there a second to Ms. Park's amendment?
So my question is, and I have a question. The question is, Councilmember Park put a number of things on the table that I think a lot of us would like to take a look at. I'm uncomfortable taking a look at any of them if you can't give me any idea how much they cost. I just can't do it. And so I guess perhaps this is a city attorney question. If we get this done today, if the Budgeting Committee Finance Report passes today, as Councilmember Park suggested, is this closed, or can we come back to it and say, let's consider mobile homes, let's consider condominiums, let's consider senior housing facilities, all those things?
Well, you can always adopt an ordinance and then later on, amend it. You could do that.
All right.
And I just want to clarify, Council President, this estimate was based on the number of properties destroyed and working with building and safety as to if those built up to the original size, what that rough estimate would be on the permits, if everyone built beyond that. It's very, again, it's more of an art than a science, given that we don't know exactly what people are going to do.
Sure, I have confidence that we can do better than what we have before us today, though. That's just my opinion based on what I've seen going forward. Councilmember Nazarian, is your hand going up?
It was. I wasn't, there was a couple of side conversations happening, so I didn't hear if that was a motion my colleague was putting forward. And if it is, I'm happy to second it if you have something in writing that we can all look at. But I think it covered the tenets of the safeguard that puts into place and the pro rata issue. So I'd be willing to support that, and I would encourage us to support that out today and then be able to look at the ordinance when it comes back so that we're not losing more time. But
Gotcha. All right, any other speakers? Councilmember Park.
And I'm happy to circulate that in writing. And yes, it was proposed as what I hope will be received as a friendly amendment to the BFI report.
All right.
Thank you, Council President. I agree with Mr. McCosker. You know, this isn't funny money. It's not theoretical money. And we're going to have to do a budget in the spring that is going to take into account general fund shifts that we're going to have to make. We don't know how much it's going to be. And there was a lot to Councilwoman Park's proposed amendment. And I would like to, before we vote on an amendment, understand what the fiscal implication of that is at a moment when we are already after our first FSR, at least $80 million in the hole for this fiscal year. I don't think it's responsible for us to vote on things when we don't know what the fiscal impact of that is. So I agree with Mr. McCosker that amendment should come back to Budget and Finance. I also am not opposed to voting today on the underlying Budget and Finance report, and then hearing in the next possible, I commit to Councilwoman Park that we will hear at the next possible Budget and Finance Committee meeting once that info is available to us from the CAO, and we can layer back in additional exemptions. We're talking about a couple of weeks, we're not talking about months, but I don't feel comfortable as budget chair moving an amendment that I don't know what the fiscal impact of is. Right. Thank you.
All right. So, Madam Clerk, we've got the last amendment was made by Councilmember Park and seconded by Councilmember Nazarian. If I'm just going to defer to the makers of that motion. Are you comfortable with it going to committee at the next available meeting, or do you want to vote now?
Council President, these folks have been waiting for months. They are dangling in uncertainty with their ALE about to expire. Commitments were already made to these folks by the mayor months ago. It has taken us weeks and months to get us here. So I understand, and nothing that Councilwoman Yaroslavsky said is wrong. In fact, it is a head scratcher to me that we are sitting here today without the numbers and not having taken into account the number of properties that have already sold and what's even eligible to participate in any of this. Frankly, I'm appalled that we have as many questions as we have to do, and we couldn't even get an accurate answer when we asked for it. So, theoretically, I am not opposed to sending it back to do the work because it is this important. But I need a commitment that it's going to come back fast.
We will, I think the committee chair is committed to that, and I'm committed to that as chair of this body. Councilmember Nazarian? Okay, all right. So we'll refer that to Budget and Finance, the committee, the written amendment, Park Nazarian. Madam Clerk, what's next? All right.
But anyway, the amendment requests the city attorney to revise the draft ordinance dated June 20th, 2025 to include any property owner who utilizes the fee waiver be required to reimburse the city the fee waiver amount if the property ownership is transferred within 60 months of completion of construction.
Councilmember McCosker? Councilmember Nazarian? Councilmember Park?
I just think, Council President, if we are going to send things back to committee, it all needs to go back to committee. We can't be ad hocing this, piecemealing these decisions. This really needs to go and be considered as a comprehensive package of relief for our disaster victims. I would just ask that it all go together and come back together.
Okay. Madam Clerk, what's...
So for the record, 23C is referred to Budget and Finance, and for clarification is the whole matter, 23 referred to Budget and Finance Committee? Okay.
That's the request.
Okay, so the 23, the entire matter is referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
Mr. Blumenfield?
Why don't we at least move forward on the waivers?
I would second that.
I mean, we have the amendments to look at, which makes sense, but the Budget and Finance report, as I mean, we can delay it, but I would think we want to at least move forward on something.
Yeah, I would say, members, the thing that there seems to be universal agreement on is at least what is in the Budget and Finance Committee. I think there are lots of us who want to add different things, but I think we can dispose of that part of it today. Madam Budget Chair, I will defer to you because this is your committee work that's going to be impacted here.
Thank you, Council President. I think that's fine. I mean, what we're voting on today is asking or directing the city attorney's office to draft the ordinance. So it's going to take them some time to do that anyway, as we know. So if we can hear the amendments in Budget and Finance and get some cost estimates of what we're talking about in terms of the delta on top of the 86, then we can come back and vote on the amendments in a couple of weeks, and that can inform the drafting by the city attorney's office. I don't think this actually is a problem in terms of timing.
All right.
But they can get started if we vote on it today in the Budget and Finance Committee report.
All right, Mr. McCosker, you're still on the board here? No? Councilmember Park?
Councilwoman Yaroslavsky, I hear you, but then aren't we giving incomplete instructions to the city attorney? We're going to get an incomplete ordinance that then's going to have to be amended and slow everything down again and again. We have until January 7th, and these folks are out of ALE.
So do you want to send it all back to committee? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, in the meantime, no one's paying any fees, though, right? And the question is whether or not they have to pay back fees, and no one has that certainty. And so, I'm sorry. So the question is whether or not we want to have some certainty and some parameters around some of the universe that we're talking about. And that's a question for you, Councilwoman. Do you want some certainty and then we can add in additional? Or do you want to have no certainty for the time being, and some people may be liable to pay back some of these fees if they end up not being included in the universe on what we adopt?
Because we're not collecting the fees, I am comfortable waiting until we have a package based on accurate and complete information and cost analysis that looks at the various alternatives that we've included so we can assess a complete picture and then give clear direction to the city attorney and get one ordinance back one time and send these folks on their way.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to committee.
All right, I see lots of thumbs up and no speakers on the queue. Some sliver of agreement has emerged, so we will go with that. Madam Clerk, what's before us?
So the entire matter of 23 is referred to Budget and Finance Committee. So council has, next item is 24, and that was called special by an amendment, and that is Amendment Soto Martinez Hernandez.